those beaches are as full as ever, just another perfect summer day.
So your album is kind of a lockdown album, I guess, if we can call it that. Uh,
Yeah.
Since and it was created during. So how do you think that situation has affected the music that we hear? Would it have sounded or felt differently if it was done in a different scenario?
Absolutely. Everything about it would have been different. It's my first self-produced effort because it was made in my house,
Right.
not in a studio. And I didn't know that I was setting out to write an album about the pandemic. I was just, for the first 6 months of uh, lockdown, I was really kind of in shock, as was the rest of the world,
Yeah.
about what was happening, and I couldn't really write. And then over the summer, the numbers were really way down, and I felt this glimmer of hope, and I kind of was able to breathe again and loosened up a bit and was able to process some of what was going on and started writing these songs really about the time. Birds and the Bees, which is the first song on the record, which is like this convergence of conversations on how people were coping with COVID,
Right.
and Together Alone. And I just kind of was kind of unleashed into writing this album, and it became really something of a song cycle. It's 12 songs, all about this time. It's really a time capsule that we all just went through.
Right. And so was it kind of empowering to learn that you could put together an album in your own living room without having to go to a studio?
Absolutely. And I'm not a stranger to self-recording,
Right.
in that my first record, Taller Children, which was actually the one that was picked up by Verve, we made most of at home, but I was working with a producer at home,
Right.
and who I was dating at the time, and
As you do.
but we had our bedroom pop that we made, and then it was more that I just, as an engineer, I don't think that I had I think I had a lot of imposter syndrome going on until I listened to, and it's not, I arrange music, I compose music, I've scored with this composer, Paul Brill, over 30 film scores. I know how to compose. It's more about, do I feel like when I'm putting up a mono mic that it should be a stereo, or that that the distortion is going to be a problem. And when I heard Fiona Apple's Fetch the Bolt Cutters, which was really made primarily in her house, and it sounds like a house, I thought, this is supposed to sound raw. This is supposed to be kind of unapologetically honest, like the name of the record. And all of those flaws are going to be included. So I have, a lot of live stuff happening. And then also, like, I stop and start with the last song on the record. You can hear like the pedal noises, all of that stuff is included to just make it as immediate and kind of free as possible.
Right. So you mentioned you listened to Fiona Apple's album. Do you think there's kind of like an unspoken conversation between artists now? You listen to this, hear what they can do, they listen to you, and vice versa, and people are kind of picking up on how everybody's dealing with this kind of new scenario?
Well, I think, do you mean in general, are people influenced by each other's pandemic albums?
Possibly. Maybe that's what I mean. Yes. Why not?
I mean, I would say in general, everyone steals from everyone forever. That's what artists do. And then you just try to do your best to say something meaningful and honest. But I think, she just gave me license to have more confidence in a home recording. But I think that I just checked out my friend Emily King's new release, and I have some people, Bedouin and Laura Mavula and Lake Street Dive, and some bands that I've really, the Brother Brothers, some other people on Compass, Molly Tuttle, that are.
I just spoke to her a few months ago. She's fantastic.
I think there's some really fantastic stuff coming out right now. In terms of like pandemic albums, I'm sure there's going to be so many that come out in the upcoming months, and I think that I've just been so zeroed in on my little bubble. I mean, not to make another metaphor to what was going on here, isolation, but I really was kind of just focused on this work that in a weird way, I was just head down, blinders on, trying to say something and get it done.
Right. Now, speaking of saying something and getting it done, I noticed you put out a video for Together Alone, the song you mentioned a little while ago, and it's kind of a very pandemic lockdown kind of video. But there's some great lyrics in there, as well as the music. Texting without feeling is kind of a thing that I can't imagine anybody would have written even 5 or 10 years ago. But now, it's kind of a thing that we have to deal with. So tell me a little bit about that song, if you can.
I am just phoning it in, quite literally. I lost the poetry, texting without feeling, a song without meaning, a dog without a bone. I'm talking without speaking, together alone.
Well, Together Alone is really, when I wrote it, I thought, this is like the North Star of the album. Together Alone, those words. This is an album about loneliness, the different forms that loneliness takes, whether it's being isolated because all my roommates moved out in my house, or being isolated within a relationship, being isolated because feeling alone because you're on your screen so much and that you just don't feel human anymore. I think that the song ended up really coming to life with this video that I made, because it really showed kind of, it feels to me a lot of the time when I'm on my phone, like when you're on too much coffee and you haven't slept. It's like this juxtaposition of like, there's all these silver linings where it's like, I'm really closer with my mom now than I've ever been, because I'm constantly talking to her. I can live stream every week to my fans, which I've done since the beginning of this, and feel really connected to them. And yet every time I get off of that live stream, I sit alone in my room instead of being at the bar and talking to everyone. And I think I feel so alone.
Yeah. Yep.
And it's this really, it's like this hot and cold thing with our screens. And I just wanted to show a day in the life of a phone, which is why it was actually shot within the phone. You can just record the screen. And I'm really happy with how that came out.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
Yeah, thank you.
And you're right about this feeling of suddenly you're connected with everyone, and then suddenly you're disconnected, and it's a very hard and fast kind of disconnect. It's like you're either talking with everyone or nobody.
Absolutely, and also when we are talking to people, it feels a bit overwhelming. I mean, I'm on a songwriter circle, and even when I'm performing, you're getting constant information of all the comments as you're playing, which is really cool. And I think I'm getting kind of like very used to it. I may have to adapt to not having that in the future. but I think that, like, it's a certain kind of communication where you feel inundated. And then of course, when you get off, you're like, oh man, I should meditate or something. Where am I?
Wise.
Yeah.
Now you have another video, which is much more lighthearted, thirsty, which is a kind of Betty Boop thing going on there. And you had a guy named Robert Dean help you make that. Is that what happened? Yeah.
Thinking of you makes me twitch, makes me itch, and I'm sticking all the wrong places, kid, till it stings like a bitch. And your fingerprints are faded tattoos on my porcelain skin. When I feel like a guest at my own queen bed, when I'm soaking a scrub, but I'll never forget you, despite all my friends and the better judgments. Yes, nevertheless, I'm so thirsty.
Tell me
he's the same. He made Together Alone, that video.
Okay.
So he made both. Basically, this song is really. It was born. I was post breakup in the beginning of the pandemic, so I was feeling all of the obvious, like what am I, a nun now? Like the feelings of being asexual, and then that being exaggerated by being in isolation. There's something humorous about it. There's something cynical and kind of biting about the lyrics, because I was like kind of pissed off too.
Yes,
and
I could tell.
There's a fun nature in that, and it was empowering. I never write about anything sexual. Like my past last catalog has nothing like that in there.
Right.
So it was kind of this turning over this new leaf. But I think that Robert was listening to the song, and he's a huge fan of Looney Tunes, and he was just kind of like sifting through all of these cartoons, and he found this kind of similarity between the narrator of the song Thirsty, the sassiness, and Betty Boop's character. And I think it's really fun. I think we need a reprieve from the seriousness of the album. So it was really nice that that song had such a like humor to it.
Yeah. I'm a big Betty Boop fan myself. I've got a few
Good
cartoons laying around.
That's great.
And so you also work with a guy, on Sha-La-La, is with Alan Minkoff.
That's funny because Adam Minkoff, who is the guy, his dad's name is Alan Minkoff.
Oh,
that's
sorry.
What you just called him. Adam, yes.
Yeah, Adam.
That's his dad's name. It's just funny. It's really
that's close. Well,
it's like you're yeah. You just had like some mind reading there.
Okay.
So Adam is one of my main collaborators just over the years, and I've known him since college, and he's played everything from like clarinet to drums to bass to like all sorts of auxiliary instruments in my band. And he's kind of a savant. He's a brilliant musician and composer. And I was really trying this album sounds like it was produced by one person, I think, because I was trying to again reflect the fact that it was a time and a place, and I wanted to sound like that location. But he plays upright on a lot of the tunes, and on this tune I said, do you want to just sing the bass line instead of playing the bass line?
Yep.
And he just gave me this great Harry Nilsson-esque performance of the kind of a doo-wop thing.
Doom, 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 doom.
Me and my Tokyo, we go out walking the block, sundown till sunup. Dog and his mama collecting cans out by the freeway. Girl and her best friend, we don't make a killing, but it's still a living to me. Sha-la-la-la, sha-la-la-la-la, sha-la-la-la, sha-la-la-la-la.
Yes, well, it's definitely a doo-wop thing. I'm quite the doo-wop fan myself, and it's
good.
And it's the Silhouettes Get a Job redo.
Yeah.
I loved it, man.
Oh, cool. Yeah. But I thought it was great because he plays the character. The song is about a can collector and her dog, Tokyo. That's the name of the dog, walking through the streets of New York City. And it's kind of this like life affirming song about like, you know, I don't make a killing, but it's still a living, that line. And I think that there's just this playfulness that Adam gets to play the character of the dog Tokyo.
Right.
He sings as the dog in the bridge, and I love that you've actually, because I haven't been asked about these two songs. People usually connect more to the more Birds and the Bees and Pablo Placebo, but this one was these songs are some of my favorites, and they're the most playful on the album. So
yeah, well, I mean, connect to them. I kind of sing "Get a Job" around the house all day long. So.
Okay, there you go.
I just ask my flatmates. And it's followed by a tune called "The Rose Comes to Life," which kind of has a little beatboxy kind of thing at the beginning of it. And then I noticed the lyrics kind of have to me anyway, have a kind of Leonard Cohen-esque vibe to them. So
wow, well, thank you. That's high praise. I actually, my second album is a song cycle that I wrote for New Sounds. It's an NPR
Yeah.
show that I was just on again, but it reminded me that Leonard Cohen's Book of Longing, which is poems he wrote when he was in the Buddhist monastery,
Yep.
was the main influence for me for my second album.
Yeah.
And it was all these songs about, you know, lightness and darkness and the dichotomy and like keeping hope. And so I have a really close relationship personal relationship with his work, and that's a really high compliment. But it's actually it's a song about, and it's not necessarily obvious. I think you have to listen a few times, but it's a song about a man who is identifying as a woman and is in the mirror and is trying to come up with the strength to tell his wife that that's what he's going through.
Right.
And so it's this kind of, but it's a very hopeful song. And I've gotten some really great feedback on it, and some people that understand, that are going through that as well, and
right.
wrote to me about it.
That's an interesting topic,
Yeah.
and I've noticed it's coming up quite a bit. I'm about to interview a Southern California punk band, one of these, and they have a song about that as well. And I was like, really? That's you know, quite a stretch for, you know, that genre especially.
Yeah, it's great. Wonderful. We need all the genres writing songs.
I believe we do. Yeah. So
yeah.
And then that's followed by Apocalypse in A major, which it's a very dreamy kind of vibe to it, and of course the comet is going to come down and wipe us all out.
If by chance or an accident a comet fell down on this fair continent, golden embers fill the sky and cut through that tunnel between you and I.
Yeah, I wanted it to feel like it's towards the end of the record. We start with kind of an apocalyptic number, which is the birds and the bees. You know, it's about the birds and the bees are saying, "Hey, it looks like you're not going to save us now." And the chorus, thanks a lot, exactly. But this one I was kind of imagining like an anime. It's very cinematic. I held back from writing string arrangements on this because I thought it would just kind of make it over the top. Right. I was just kind of thinking of like an anime scene, kind of that cliche scene where it's like the comet hits the earth, but you're in the plane with your loved one, and then it crashes, and then you have to find your lover. How do you find your lover through the rubble? And so it's this I wanted to make this dreamy, especially on the chorus, dreamy soundscape for that.
You comfortable?
Yeah. Actually, I keep having to move because this new couch that I have is like it's like the back of a car where there's like the seat kind of slopes down too much.
Oh yeah,
it's just terrible for your back. And I've just been doing interviews all day long. So I have afterwards I'm going to take a nice long walk. I sound like an old maid right now.
No.
I just got the wrong couch.
You just got to get the blood flowing again in certain parts.
Yeah, exactly.
Now, so do you feel near the end of the record, there's a sense of hope at least somewhere in there? Yeah, I mean, it's apocalyptic by nature, but at the same time, is there an overall vibe that you're trying to get across as people listen from beginning to end?
Yeah, I think that's why I ended with "Hope My Sometimes Friend." Because, you know, I think that we were all honestly trying to reckon with the idea of hope. And if when Trump is your president and there's all these global crises converging, and things just look so dire, how do you believe? How do you have faith? And so I really wanted to have a song where I was just kind of, I was like calling to the concept of hope, like come back, like a lost forlorn lover, come back to me, like I'm waiting for you. And so there definitely should be, especially songs like Sweet Chariot. It's all just about the human condition and it's a rare condition, but
Right.
how can we muster some hope in this rubble, right?
Very cool. So I don't know if you're thinking about the next record at this point, but I assume at some point things will get back to something resembling normal. Do
I
you
love
think that having made this record, well, yeah, maybe not.
Great
How
thought.
will making this record under these conditions affect what you do next, do you think?
Well, of course, like my record's been out 3 days and I'm already writing a song today. I'm like, I need to chill out and
Right.
just think about just like do something that's of this record right now. I don't know what that is, or get a massage or something.
Right.
Speaking of this couch. But I think that again, with like I'm empowered to make more stuff at home. But I think that if I'm given the opportunity to make something in a studio, I'm not going to say no.
Right.
But I do think that the one thing, and you can kind of tell from this interview how I just, every time we're talking about music, I just kind of veer back to the lyrics, because I think that this record for me felt like I finally, on every single song, really had a story to tell.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't have that with all of my records. Sometimes I'll like hit a gold mine and say like a song of mine, like Thank You for Nothing, where I'll say, oh, I said something that I wanted to say in a succinct way. And it's poetry, and I got it there, and then there's stuff that's like a little bit more about the music or more of a jam, and it's not as thoughtful. And I think that I was just so adamant in like my editing process with this record that every song was really like creating a world.
Right.
And so I hope that will carry forward into my next record,
right.
Unless I just want to do like an instrumental jam band record, which will be fine too.
That's always a good thing. Well, maybe the forced isolation has forced you to kind of consolidate and think about your lyrics more than you might have had in the past.
Think so. I think it was a more focused bubble for sure.
A focused bubble. That's your next album cover or title. And are you getting much feedback from people? I mean, you said the album's been out 3 days, so I'm assuming you're probably deluged with people saying something about what they've heard.
I mean, I think I'm really, really pleased with the response. And I mean, I don't know, the press has been just like absolutely darling about this album, and I'm like moved by the writing even. Right. Such good writers. But it's just been again and again like, oh, you really get what you got it, you got me. That's a feeling I have again and again. And I I've always wanted to be on All Songs Considered. My music wasn't on that since my first album, and it was on that, and I've had some really fun interviews. So I'm delighted with the response, and that's the best feeling in the world as an artist. That's the best. There's nothing better. So
yeah, very cool. Well, thank you for talking to me about it. I love listening to it. So hopefully
it's been a pleasure.
Yeah, hopefully things will happen the way they're supposed to happen. Maybe you can come down here and play for us someday.
That would be great.
That would be cool. In the meantime, have yourself a great day.
And
maybe a new couch.
Okay. Yeah, I'm going to work on it. I'll work on it.
Okay.
Bye-bye. Take care. Bye.